I bumped into my husband going out with his mistress. He didn't hide it, saying calmly, "A mistress doesn't affect your status." I gave a light chuckle. "She has affected your status. I don't want you anymore." He wouldn't agree, so I directly forced a divorce, making a scene all the way to the Imperial study. When I bumped into Shen Mubai taking a girl into a tea house, that girl was clinging tightly to his arm, looking at me provocatively. "Which brothel did this one come out of?" My maid Liangson asked with a sharp tongue. The young girl who was acting all showy and arrogant just a moment ago instantly changed her expression. She clenched her fists, looking as if she was going to smash them into us master and servant the very next second. Fortunately, Shen Mubai still had some shame. He quickly grabbed her fist and whispered something in her ear. The young girl could only glare at me indignantly, put on her veiled hat, turn around, and leave. Then, Shen Mubai stepped into the tea house with his hands behind his back, merely tossing me a lukewarm "keep up." I looked at his composed and dashing retreating figure, and suddenly laughed. What is this supposed to be? Not even a word of explanation. Yet he is bossing me around. What does he take me for? Liangshan said indignantly, "Miss, are we going in?" "We are." I stared darkly at the man walking up the stairs, emotions churning. I want to see just how else he can humiliate me. I followed close behind, went upstairs, and entered the private room. I saw him standing at the window with his hands behind his back, looking up at the sky. "Madam Jenner won't enter the manor to affect your position." His tone was a bit sorrowful, yet the words he spoke were so shameless. Even if she enters the manor, she is just a concubine. How could she affect my status? I asked with a laugh. "Don't tell me my lord is worried I'll hurt your precious little wife? Jenner?" I mulled over the phrase, and instantly understood. Why does this name sound so much like an old friend's name? He turned abruptly, gazing at me with deep eyes. "Madam, you know, that person is my reverse scale. So, that Jenner just now counts too. Don't tell me everyone in the world named Jenner is your reverse scale." I sneered, saying with cold sarcasm. "You know who I am talking about." "Of course I know. Liu Zhen, daughter of Scholar Shen. She was Shen Mubai's white moonlight, his cinnabar mole, the girl he could never forget for the rest of his life. I didn't know about this matter before I married him, because although Shen Mubai and I were betrothed since childhood, I had always followed my father to guard the frontier. When we got married, I set off directly from the frontier. The journey took 3 whole months, and after reaching the capital, I only rested for 1 night before going straight into the Shen residence to perform the wedding rituals. It wasn't until the day I returned to my maiden home that my eldest brother, who had stayed in the capital all along, told me about this. My face turned cold right then and there. Big brother knew it wasn't right of him to hide this from me, so he gave me quite a few good things to make up for it. Big brother thinks very highly of Shen Mubai, aside from the fact that it was inappropriate for him to be in love with Liu Zhen, while knowing he had an engagement. Everything else is great. Besides, Liu Zhen is already dead. He felt it was all in the past and didn't want me to miss out on such a good man, so he kept it from me. But I don't think it is all fine just because the person is dead. In fact, it is quite the opposite. The living can never compete with the dead. Originally on the wedding night, Shen Mubai was quite gentle and considerate to me, with quite a flavor of deep lingering affection. I was still very delighted, thinking that becoming a loving couple wouldn't be a difficult task. But after learning about this, I felt the future was bleak. Sure enough, except for that wedding day. He never stepped into my room again. My mother-in-law also kept prodding me to take the initiative, but when I think about how his heart belongs to another, I just can't work up the enthusiasm. People around who knew about this all said, "The person is already gone. As long as you treat him well, he'll warm up to you sooner or later." I also know that when a woman marries, she can't expect everything to go her way. It is a blind marriage to begin with, so it is normal to have no feelings. Then, we won't talk about feelings. Just be an ordinary couple treating each other with respect. Have children and raise them, and spend the rest of our lives together. In this life, love isn't exactly a must-have to add icing on the cake. Right at the moment when I had figured this out, Shen Mubai, whom everyone praised for his deep devotion and high integrity, actually kept a mistress. After I caught him, he showed not a shred of guilt or panic, but instead wanted me not to make things difficult for that woman. Seeing that I didn't react for a long time, Shen Mubai's expression darkened slightly, and his voice went up a notch. Song Yutong, I hope you watch your limits when speaking and acting. You are the one who should watch your step. I wasn't afraid in the slightest, my almond eyes wide as I stared him down. Shen Mubai, I don't care who you liked in the past. Youthful infatuation, I have nothing to say about that. But you married me, gave me the cold shoulder, and even kept a mistress. That means there is a problem with your character. You just said that girl named Jenner wouldn't affect my position. I gave him a light smile, sorry. Perhaps she won't affect my position in the Shen family. But she has already affected your position, because you are no longer worthy of being my man. I dropped those words with a cold face, turned, and left the private room, slamming the door shut behind me with a bang. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Shen Mubai's face full of astonishment. But at this moment, none of his emotions could affect me anymore. He only made me feel disgusted. Coming out of the tea house, I didn't go straight back to the Shen residence. Instead, I took Liangxin and weaved through the noisy streets of Shengjing. I've been here for over 2 months, always busy and weighed down by worries, simply having no time to appreciate the prosperity of Shengjing. Most likely because the confusion and inner conflict of the past few days finally reached a conclusion. Right now, I actually had the mood to wander around properly. I didn't have much interest in those shops, but the food street in the West Market was quite to my liking. Liangxin and I, with a lamb skewer in one hand and a candied hawthorn in the other, walked from one end of the street to the other. We ate until our bellies were round before finding a tea stall I ordered a pot of plain tea, sipping it while watching the myriad scenes of street life before me, feeling quite at ease and contented. Suddenly, a muffled thunderclap came from the sky. The weather in June is just like a child's face. It changes at the drop of a hat. The vendors along the whole street hurriedly packed up their stalls, and the residents on both sides ran out to bring in their clothes and other things. People were scurrying about everywhere for this impending rain. Liangxin looked at the sky and urged anxiously, "Madam, let's go back too. It looks like the raindrops are about to fall any second." I nodded, raised my sleeve to cover my head, and ran with Liangxin towards the carriage at the street crossing. As soon as we sat inside the carriage, the raindrops started falling. A clattering sound came from overhead, and both Liangxin and I patted our chests with lingering fear. Glad we made it in time. I lifted the carriage curtain and said to the coachman, "To the general's manor." "Madam, we aren't going back to the Shen family?" Liangxin asked, somewhat surprised. "Not going back, we're never going back." Liangxin knew I wasn't in a good mood, so she didn't ask any more about it. But after arriving home, I knew I still had to get past my big brother. Men just won't understand a woman's feelings. We entered the general's manor amidst the wind and rain. Uncle Han, the butler, told me quite joyfully, "Eldest Miss and the son-in-law really share a telepathic connection." The son-in-law came over at noon and is playing chess with the eldest young master in the Listening Rain pavilion right now. My brows knitted slightly, and I suddenly felt a sense of powerlessness in my heart. Sure enough, given the relationship between Big Brother and Shen Mubai, wanting a divorce and returning home is bound to be quite the ordeal. "Don't tell anyone I am back." Lifting my skirt, I took Liangxin and headed straight for my own begonia courtyard. The rain was coming down hard, so I inevitably got wet. After having the maids and older servants wait on me for a bath, I went to bed to rest. I was truly physically and mentally exhausted today. "Madam, since you are resting here today, should we send word to the master?" Liangxin asked. I huddled under the covers, my eyes staring at the ceiling as I planned out my future. Then I sighed. "Forget it. Bring the brush and ink." Liangxin was very skilled at spreading the paper and grinding the ink. Seeing that things were mostly ready, I threw off the covers and got out of bed, picking up the brush to write a divorce letter. "Liangxin, send this to Tingyu Pavilion. Just say that from now on, I am no longer a wife of the Shen family." Liangxin glanced at the divorce papers where the ink was not yet dry, her face full of shock. "Madam, you are serious." I never speak idly. From now on, just call me eldest miss. But eldest young master probably won't agree. I pinched the space between my brows. Having a brother who sides with outsiders is really troublesome. Don't worry about him. I waved my hand. Go on. Liangson picked up the thoroughly dried divorce papers, folded them up, curtsied, and withdrew. As soon as she left, I felt a bit dizzy, and my cheeks felt burning hot and uncomfortable. It felt like there was a fire beast inside me trying to devour me. Even the breath I exhaled was scorching hot. I lay on the bed, closed my eyes, and fell asleep before I knew it. I had a dream. It was me at 12 years old, wearing a riding outfit, holding up a red tasseled spear, and charging up a bandit stronghold with my second brother, seizing countless grains and treasures. That year, the border was hit by both drought and war, and everyone was so hungry they were gnawing on tree bark. So second brother said we might as well raid a few more bandit dens so we could survive the days ahead. At the time, I prided myself on my martial arts skills and clamored to tag along. So relying on my wits and agility, my second brother and I made a perfect team, successfully leading the border soldiers and civilians through that disastrous year. How free and high-spirited I was back then. Youthful spirit, fine clothes, and spirited horses. In the blink of an eye, I took off my battle gear and put on feminine attire, staying in the inner quarters all day, frowning with worry, becoming a resentful woman in the deep boudoir, spending all day pining for a husband who would not return. How pathetic. The sound of my brother calling came to my ears. I slowly opened my eyes, my face already wet with tears. I felt sorry for that little girl back then. Clearly, from childhood to adulthood, I gave no less than any man yet. My final fate was no different from any other woman. Ultimately, it all stemmed from the first awakening of love. From a man's sweet words, that is all. That year, I had just come of age, and I received a letter from my so-called fiancé for the first time. He wrote, "Long have I awaited my betrothed. Thoughts of your return consume me. My heart longs to grow gray with you, dreaming of our shared joy. My love is constant as the sun, deep affection eternal as a poem. After we are wed, hand in hand, we shall grow old together." The whole poem was filled with deep affection, young and ignorant of what love really felt like. I was captivated by the tender devotion in his letter. From then on, I actually started to feel a hint of anticipation and yearning for this fiancé I had never met, and in every letter Big Brother sent, he had nothing but high praise for Shen Mubai, making me unconsciously curious about this man. Just like that, without realizing it, he found his way into my heart, making me willing to leave the place I grew up and travel thousands of miles to marry into Shengjing. As a member of the Song family, staying in the capital meant being His Majesty's hostage, so it was always just Big Brother, as the heir, who remained in the capital as a hostage. And now, here I was, walking right into the trap myself. But back then, he was clearly already in love with Liu Zhen. Thinking of my stupidity over these past 3 years, I covered my face helplessly. I really must have been out of my mind. "Tanger, are you all right?" Big Brother asked nervously when he saw me covering my face. "I am fine, I just don't want to go back to the Shen family." "But you are a wife of the Shen family." "Big Brother, I miss second brother. I want to go back to the border," I said, my voice somewhat hoarse. "Tanger, Big Brother knows why you are upset, but Mubai said there is nothing going on between him and that woman. It is just that looking at her reminds me of someone from the past. So that is why I am keeping her." "You believe that kind of crap. Your brain really has gone bad staying in Shengjing, then." I gave a light chuckle and mocked myself. "Am I not the same? It has only been 2 short months, and I've changed beyond recognition." "Don't say any more, my mind is made up." "But if a woman divorces, how will you survive in the future?" "Brother, there are plenty of women at the border surviving on their own." I looked at him and said, somewhat disappointed, "You've already lost the spirit of the Song family." Outside, lightning flashed and thunder rolled. Brother stumbled and fell to the ground, his eyes filled with terror. My eyes were clear. I threw off the covers, got out of bed, and walked to the window to look at the dark, heavy sky. "I can't blame you. I sighed. We predicted this long ago, but I still can't help being disappointed. Lai Bao, help your master back. The divorce is imperative. I paused. I will handle these matters myself. Brother need not worry. Just stay in your room and read more books these days. Tanger. Brother wanted to say something more, but Lai Bao rushed up and covered his mouth. My young lord, let's go quick. I watched Lai Bao drag brother away, running like a ghost was chasing him. I just smiled. Everyone in the capital knows I once went deep into enemy camps and cut off the heads of dozens of enemy generals, with hands stained in blood and countless military achievements. The people of the border called me a heroine. Yet the people of the capital have learned from those barbarians to call me a she-devil. Every time I attend a banquet, I inevitably become the subject of widespread discussion, and there is no shortage of women who admire Shen Mubai that mock and sneer at me. But I never care because I haven't done anything wrong, and because my conscience is clear. I wrote a letter overnight, and had someone send it to the border, explaining the divorce to my parents and second brother. Early the next morning, I called for Uncle Han. Take 300 family guards. Go to the Shen residence and bring back my dowry. If anyone blocks you, strike directly. Just don't kill anyone. Eldest Miss, trespassing into an official's residence seems improper. Go. I'll take responsibility for everything. The Shen family is beneath my notice. The people of the general's manor came out in full force, and the streets were boiling with excitement. But I was all alone, wielding my sword in the courtyard. Every surge of sword energy concealed a lethal move. After wielding my sword for 2 hours, my courtyard gate was kicked open by the Imperial guards. Miss Song, the Shen family accuses you of trespassing in an official's residence, dispatching troops to loot property, having no regard for the law, and being suspected of treason. I let go, and with a clang, the sword shot into the trunk of the crabapple tree opposite, leaving only the hilt. Then, I withdrew my hand and stood with my hands behind my back. Let's go. The Imperial guards voluntarily made way, and I walked at the very front as we entered the Imperial palace. Imperial Study, the head of the Shen family, and Shen Mubai were both kneeling on the ground. I lifted my robes and knelt down leisurely. His Majesty kept his head lowered, reviewing memorials showing not the slightest intention of paying us any mind. About an hour passed. Shen Mubai was already teetering on the verge of collapse, and his father wasn't doing much better. I let out a scoff, weakling. I really don't know what was wrong with me before. I must have definitely been hexed. Song Yutong? What are you laughing at? His Majesty was likely disturbed by my laughter, or perhaps thought I was mocking him. He put down his brush with a snap and looked at me. I originally wanted to bluff my way through with a few words. Then I thought, it doesn't really matter. The gloves are off anyway. Your subject is laughing at herself. A tiger daughter of a general's lineage. Someone who gallops across battlefields, actually married a weakling who can't even kneel straight. Song Yutong! Shen Mubai shouted at me in shame and indignation. I impatiently picked at my ear. I can hear you. You don't need to be so loud. Your Majesty, Song Yutong is audacious to the extreme. She actually dispatched soldiers to barge into an official's residence without authorization. Lord Shen, surely you jest. It was just some family servants going to retrieve my dowry. How does that count as soldiers? I cupped my hands toward His Majesty. Your Majesty, please discern the truth. Yesterday I decided to divorce Shen Mubai, and the divorce papers have also been sent to him. Today I sent people to get my dowry back. Surely that is perfectly justified. I do not agree to the divorce, Shen Mubai said hurriedly. Song Yutong, how long are you going to make a scene? We've only been married for 2 months, yet the moment things don't go your way, you want a divorce. Do you treat marriage as child's play? So you also know that we've only been married for 2 months. Keeping a mistress just 2 months into the marriage. I really don't know where that reputation of yours for being noble and pure came from. I looked at Father Shen. Or maybe that Shen family ancestral rule about only taking a concubine if sonless at 40 is just to make it convenient for you Shen family sons to keep mistresses. Your Majesty, Shen Mubai's character is just too terrible. I really can't stand living under the same roof as him anymore. Please allow us to divorce. The Emperor was also somewhat surprised. Minister Shen, is what she said true? You are keeping a mistress. No, she is just a helpless woman. I took pity on her, so I provided her with a place to stay. Shen Mubai denied it, making excuses. Father Shen also hurriedly vouched for his son. Your Majesty, you know that my Mubai has always been kind-hearted. It is the Song woman who is narrow-minded and cannot tolerate a grain of sand in her eye. So what if I am? If it weren't for your family's ancestral rules, would I have traveled thousands of miles to marry you? Besides, everyone in Shengjing knows that Shen Mubai likes the Liu family's dead eldest daughter. But I clearly remember, on the day I came of age, he sent me a love poem proposing marriage. I've never seen anyone as hypocritical as him in my life. We simply walk different paths. I kowtowed to His Majesty and implored, I beg your Majesty to grant my wish. I would rather die on the battlefield wrapped in horsehide than be Shen Mubai's wife again. The emperor pondered for a moment, then asked, as the saying goes, better to tear down a temple than break up a marriage. If I have Mubai send this woman away, never to contact her again, what would you do then? I am willing. Shen Mubai looked at me with eager anticipation. Your Majesty, without Liu Yuzhen, there was Jenner who resembled her. Without Jenner, other replacements will naturally appear. I certainly don't have the confidence to compete with the dead. Nor am I willing to wait for someone whose heart belongs to another to fall in love with me. That is too hard. If he sends that girl away today, I am afraid he'll only end up resenting me, seeing that I wouldn't listen to reason. His Majesty didn't look too pleased. Make sure you've thought this through. You should know that for a divorced woman, it is not easy to marry into a good family again. The next one might not be as good as him. My mind is made up. I pressed my head to the ground and said seriously, a woman doesn't have to get married to survive. Most of the girls and women in our border town hold up the household on their own. Most men in the border town join the army, leaving behind only the old, weak women and children. Aside from providing some silver, the women are the true pillars of the family. Shen Mubai looked at me in shock. You are actually this resolute. Why is that? In this world, isn't it a common thing for men to have 3 wives and 4 concubines? Then why did your Shen family set such a family rule? Playing the whore while claiming to be a saint, that is exactly talking about you lot. Besides, my parents were monogamous all their lives, which shows that not all men in this world have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Forgive my bluntness, but only men with low IQs who let their reasons succumb to their lust would engage in the practice of having multiple wives and concubines. I looked at him coldly. Obviously, your genes are absolute trash. I am afraid they'll affect my next generation, so I don't want you anymore. I didn't notice that after I finished speaking, the faces of the 3 men present had all turned green. When I felt the atmosphere in the room become heavy, making it hard to breathe, only then did I consciously look up at His Majesty. Song Yutong, you are being insolent. I lowered my eyes in embarrassment and remained silent. I wasn't wrong anyway. You think we wouldn't dare punish you, is that it? I curled my lips and took out a brocade box from my sleeve. Your Majesty, this is an item for warding off the cold that I discovered by chance. His Majesty took it, opened it, and looked. Isn't this Beidizi? It is just a kind of flower. The crime of deceiving the monarch, do you know the consequences? Your subject speaks not a word of falsehood. I clapped my hands, and a young eunuch outside brought in a bolt of white cloth. Your Majesty, please look. This is cloth woven from the soft flower down of that Beidizi. As long as every household masters the planting techniques, then many fewer people should freeze to death every winter. The looms and craftsmen, your subject offers them as well. His Majesty was overjoyed. What is your request? I just want a divorce, and to return to my parents. Since you insist on this, I grant it. Minister Shen, just choose a new daughter-in-law. Since Mubai likes that little girl named Jenner, I can grant a marriage decree for you. No need. Shen Mubai shook his head repeatedly, his eyes bloodshot. Jenner is just a sister to me. How could I take her as a wife? I curled my lips in disdain. Anyway, His Majesty has decreed the divorce, and it is a done deal, so I won't waste my breath arguing with him. His Majesty looked at Shen Mubai with a darkened gaze and sighed. Mubai, you really need to work on your character. You lack even the most basic sense of responsibility. You are lesser than a woman. When I arrived at the Shen house with the Imperial decree alongside the Shen father and son, Uncle Han was already leading men to move the stuff to the songhouse. While Liangsen and Nanny helped with the inventory, I didn't even step inside the Shen house. I took my own servants and went straight back to the songhouse. Nanny hugged me heartbrokenly and wailed, "Miss, don't be sad. Everything will be fine once we're back in the border town." I nodded. I said I'd take you back again. And look, I am keeping my word. But this old servant doesn't want you to divorce. Pah! What young Master Ruyu. What noble character. Turns out he is full of thievery and whoring inside. The wet nurse strayed further off topic the more she cursed. I stopped him with a laugh. All right, let's part on good terms. In the end, we just weren't meant to be, that is all. Let's pack up and go back to the border town. The wet nurse wiped her tears and went to tidy up. In the days that followed, I stayed at the Song Manor, organizing that massive dowry. I decided that as soon as the dowry was settled, I'd go back to the border city. But I never expected there would be such a pleasant surprise. Perhaps having heard the news of my divorce, Mom and Dad were worried I'd be heartbroken, so they sent second brother to pick me up. It is just that before I even saw him, I heard he'd beaten up Shen Mubai. When I got the news and rushed over, Shen Mubai was already black and blue, unable to even speak. Second brother looked at me standing there dazed, smiled and yanked me away. "Bro got revenge for you. Let's go home." I smiled helplessly, having no choice but to resign myself to going back. We siblings have really become famous. But thinking of His Majesty's attitude, me eyes flickered. Perhaps this is exactly what he wanted. Having figured this out, I didn't lecture my brother anymore either. Let them be. Anyway, second brother knows his limits when he gets physical. When I got home and saw the man sitting in the front hall, I was surprised. My goodness. Strategist Shu, what are you doing here? Eldest Miss is getting a divorce, and the general was worried you'd get screwed over, so he sent me back to strategize for you. No need. Those capital folks love their roundabout tactics, so I decided to do the exact opposite. I threw straight shots, and surprisingly, none of them could handle it. I smugly shared my glorious achievements with Xu Qing'an. Eldest Miss is wise but plays the fool. I admire that, Xu Qing'an said politely. Since everything is settled, I'll just treat this as a sightseeing tour. That is great. I'll show you all around Shengjing. I slapped my chest and spoke with great bravado. Second brother was busy sorting out big brother, so I acted as a guide, taking Xu Qing'an wandering aimlessly all over the place. Xu Qing'an could tell I wasn't familiar with it either, so he specifically brought the steward along, also to avoid gossip. Although I didn't think it was necessary, he insisted on following local customs. I just let him have his way. We played hard for 4 or 5 days. I felt like we'd been everywhere, yet there was only that kind of place we hadn't been to. I asked quietly, "Old Shu, wanna go to a flower house to have some fun? It seems pretty interesting." Xu Qing'an waved his hands repeatedly, a blush flashing across his face. "Not going." "Hemph, if you are not going, I'll go myself." The night was dark and windy. I changed into the old men's clothes I'd gotten from Big Brother. Just as I flew up onto the wall, someone grabbed my ankle and I fell down. The two of us fell into a heap, and I cursed, "Who the hell is out to get me?" Rubbing my butt, I looked down. "Xu Qing'an, you can't go to a brothel. Then just come with me to take a look, okay?" I acted cute, threw a tantrum, and rolled around, finally wearing him down until he agreed. It would have been perfect if we hadn't run into Shen Mubai. We walked into Baiwa Tower arm in arm, only to see Shen Mubai coming down from upstairs. Behind me, that girl named Jenner was screaming her heart out calling for Shen Lang. But there were matrons from the building holding her back, so she couldn't move. Shen Mubai saw me, his face stiffened, and immediately his expression turned resentful. "You say I keep a mistress, then who is this pretty boy?" I couldn't be bothered to deal with him. I punched him in the face first, hooked my other hand around Shu Qing'an's arm, and walked past him upstairs. What a piece of trash. We have nothing to do with each other anymore, yet you still dare to try and boss me around. You really think you are a big deal. Song Yutong, I've already sold Jenner to the brothel. From now on, I'll only have you. Come back with me, okay? I closed my eyes, my face livid. I originally cross-dressed as a man today to have some fun. Him blowing my cover is just him deliberately trying to smear my name and take revenge, isn't it? Look at that face of his. Anyone who didn't know better would actually think he had such deep feelings for me. To actually sell a woman who has been with you into a brothel. That is truly classless. Is the Shen family going under? Are you that short on silver? I said with disdain. Better not. I am afraid you'll sell me off too whenever you get unhappy. Everyone in the brothel was pointing fingers at Shen Mubai. And my one-day brothel tour had only just begun. I called for a girl for Shu Qing'an, but he refused. Later, I had someone play the zither for me while I sipped on some wine. Life was just too cozy. Before I knew it, the melody changed. Hearing familiar music, I instantly perked up, wanting to see who could play the song of the border returnee. Clutching a wine pot, I swayed and staggered over to the beauty. I wanted to get a clear look, but my vision was too blurry. I just felt this person looked somewhat familiar. Right after that, I collapsed. I fell asleep. I had a dream. I dreamed I was a tiny little thing sitting on a swing, with a boy pushing me from behind. I was flying so high, so high. And then I said excitedly, "When I become your wife in the future, you still have to take me flying." That person's face was buried in the shadows, his thin lips parting slightly. Okay, I tried hard to see his face clearly, but I just couldn't. I opened my eyes and found myself resting on Shu Qing'an's lap. I hurriedly sat up. I don't know why, but I just felt awkward. Aunt's June passed, the sweltering summer heat set in. Yet we set off right at this time. The barbarians are harassing the border, neither second brother nor I are there. So I am a bit worried. On the day of our departure, even His Majesty came to see us off. None of the Shen family came. I heard Shen Mubai has been going crazy at home recently, worrying Father Shen and Mother Shen sick. They even came to my door looking for me. But what does his madness have to do with me? He can't handle it yet. He can't let go. He brought this on himself. It was already winter when I returned to the border city. It was the season for fighting mountain bandits again. I mounted my horse and raised my spear again, becoming myself once more. Shu Qingshan smiled and rubbed my head. Go have fun. I'll be waiting for you at home. I looked at the swing in Jingyuan and smiled. Men, wait for me. I grabbed his collar and planted a kiss on him. When this young master returns, I'll grace you with my favors. Everyone was dumbfounded. Second brother's face flushed red. You are simply scandalous. I glanced at Shu Qingshan. Don't tell me an old man like you isn't willing. Shu Qingshan's face darkened. Since you think I am old, why kiss me then? I just like the older ones. My cheeks flushing. I turned my horse around, squeezed its belly, and galloped away. Who doesn't have a white moonlight anyway? It is just that the age gap was too big, so I forcibly suppressed it myself. That is all. But after a trip to Shengjing I understood. It is only 8 years. I am not even afraid of life and death. So why should I be afraid of a mere few years?